Breakout rooms back in 60 seconds.
Remain comfortable.
Okay.
The camera.
Diane needs a head. There you go.
Okay, breakout rooms. They're having too much fun chatting. And we have to endure the awkward silence. Here they come. Right. Here we go. Here we go. Here comes the group. Okay, I think looks like the breakout groups are back with us. So we'd like to welcome Eve Shalom to our Sunday morning Zen. Eve is a board certified dance movement therapist with a private practice in the West Town area of Chicago. Eve received her MS in dance movement therapy from Pratt Institute in New York City, and has worked in hospitals with patients with mental illness and addiction issues, and at a nonprofit for adults with mental illness and cognitive delays. Eve was a competitive figure skater and competed at 2 world championships in ice dancing, and then spent 15 years performing dance and figure skating with various companies. She has also been certified as a yoga instructor, a brain injury specialist, and as a master-rated figure skating coach. Eve's also been meditating for over 20 years. So we'd like to welcome you, Eve. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody for having me here. I'm really, really pleased to be here and to be talking about this topic, embodiment and emotion. And I don't have to go through my credentials, so that's good. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, like, this topic is it's an interesting topic because sometimes with Zen or meditation, we get kind of more aware of our mind and less aware of our body in some ways. So as a dance movement therapist, I've really tried to go back and forth between like awareness of my body, awareness of thoughts, physical sensations, emotions, and finding a flow between all three of them. So in this talk today, I'm going to kind of break down what embodiment means and how to practice it, how to understand it and work with it, and also how our emotions and our understanding of our emotions allow for embodiment, or make embodiment more difficult. So I definitely want to leave space for questions along the way. If people want to ask about something I'm saying, by all means, raise your hand or just, ask a question. So because this topic can be a little bit, it can be personal in some ways. So I just want to acknowledge that right up in the beginning. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of pick it up here. So I started practicing mindfulness about 10 years ago and becoming like just trying to bring that into my everyday life, awareness into my everyday life. And the way that I did that was by observing my movements. Because I had so much experience with dance and figure skating, that's what made the most sense to me as how to become present was through my movement and my body. So I began to pay attention to how I walked and my movements more generally, working to make my movement more healthy. And I also had realized that I had a brain injury from this childhood accident that where I suffered hearing loss and a brain injury. And so when I was going to school in my 30s for dance movement therapy, I realized that I had had this brain injury that had been undiagnosed. So part of becoming aware of my movement was to repair that and work on that. I also became more aware of my mind and how it occupied itself from minute to minute. I remember asking my yoga teacher at that time what to do with my mind since I became more awake with it. And she said, just look around, see the world, notice your thoughts, your breath, just relax, you know. And for me, that was like a really new experience to be aware of my thoughts because I had grown up an unconscious person. And when I got married and divorced and I was 29, this is when I went through a major life change where I started to become more aware of what was going on. And I wanted to know like what my intentions were to things and why I did the things I did and what was going on underneath the surface. The culture of my household of origin was to be very unconscious and to blast through life. My parents set a role model of running away from things that might make you wake up and pay attention to yourself or what you were doing in your relationships. So I learned early on to hide my feelings from other people. And eventually I learned to disconnect from them and repress them. So being an elite figure skater for a number of years, I had a lot of control over my movement, but I didn't feel my body at all. So I have a metaphor that I was like a puppeteer with a lot of strings. I was able to make movements happen, but I didn't feel them. I just really didn't feel my body at all. So I wasn't experiencing my movement. If I felt something, I had no idea how to interpret the sensations. So the reason this happened is because I had a lot of trauma when I was a child. So one of the coping strategies from that is to deaden your body or cut off sensation. So if I ever felt sensations, I didn't understand them because I didn't have a good connection between my body and my mind. So when I learned how to turn off my body so I didn't feel it, it made everyday life easier at the time. So, because I didn't have to consciously live with, I'm losing my place here. I didn't have to consciously live with the distressing emotions I was experiencing every day. And it's a very powerful coping mechanism to do that. Sometimes we're in difficult situations in life and that's really necessary. So, and for me in my teenage years, it was necessary because I didn't see a way of living a different life. I was kind of part of a cog in a wheel. So I had to just go along with the program. I didn't really see how to get out of it. So it was necessary at the time to have that coping strategy of not being able to feel my body or my emotions. And later in life, from the therapeutic point of view, you know, I realized that coping strategies can be very useful sometimes, but then later on, they sort of lose their usefulness if they're not appropriate to your present day life. So it's it can be quite a change. You know, they're very helpful to have and it allowed me to survive difficult circumstances, but it's also good to know when those coping strategies aren't needed anymore. So, and it can be a lot of extra work to keep using them if they're not helping you in your present life. So I found it was really important to me to be able to feel my body and my emotions, and I wanted that. And I felt like that was something that stopped me from being able to have good relationships. And that was something I really wanted in my life. I wanted to have good relationships. So I was like, I want to be able to feel what's going on. You know, how do I feel around these people, or what kind of feedback am I getting from my body? And sometimes I've had the experience where my emotions were kind of trapped in my body, where I would feel stiffness or pain in a part of my body. And that would last until I was able to figure out what emotion I was holding in that part. And that might have something to do with some experience I was going through or something that got triggered, and then I'd be holding that emotion in that part of my body. But once I would figure out what was going on, what emotion it was, the pain or the stiffness would go away. And so it's an interesting thing, because now that I'm used to that and I understand my body better, like I just listen for the signals. Oh, okay, yeah, there's some emotion here that I need to work through because I'm starting to feel stiff in my neck. So that's kind of how I do it now. But I wanted to share these details about my personal history so that you could understand a bit more why embodiment or emotion just like can be such an interesting topic, I guess, because it can really change your life. You can change how you live your life. So it's really interesting to like learn more about it. So I just want to talk a little bit more about what embodiment is. And when embodiment is when you feel safe in your body and when you feel allowed to have emotions and to share them, you generally live in a state where you feel your body regularly. So this means that you feel physical sensations often. And if they have an emotional tone to them, you understand what the sensations and the tones mean. You also have a sense of having a body that's accessible to you, and it feels like there is space to mentally be with your emotions while they're moving around your body. With embodiment, there can also be this thought or feeling that you identify with your body and you feel at home in it. This is a very important skill for people who have experienced trauma to work on, because they often feel like their body is no longer a safe home for them. And then there's this kind of disconnect or cut off or aversion to the body. There can be this aversion or rejection of the body that goes along with this. And what happens is that can perpetuate a cycle of discomfort, making somebody disconnect from their body more and more over time. And that can cause problems, different kinds of problems going forwards. So it's a good short-term strategy sometimes, but I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. Being able to break that cycle and reestablish a healthy connection with the body, that just means, working through any emotions that come up and not pushing away your history or negative experiences or negative emotions, but just embracing it all, being with it. And then it's, and then you can digest and resolve and process stuff. So I want to do a practice here with like body sensing. And many of you might have done body scans before. It's a really nice meditation technique. And this is kind of a body scan. It'll be a little bit different. I'm just going to draw your attention to different parts of the body. And the idea is to see how much feeling you have in those different parts, what the feeling is like, and how to relax into them a bit. We'll also use the chair to see how we're registering sensation when there is some contact made. If this activity doesn't feel accessible to you, please don't force yourself to do it. Just use it as time to observe others or listen to the words without trying to do it. It's something that people need to be ready for, as it is a whole universe down in there, the same way that the mind is a whole universe. I also will encourage us to make distinctions between physical sensations and just feeling a sense of how the energy or emotions are flowing or not in the different parts. We're going to talk a little bit about diaphragmatic breathing too. So just sit comfortably, however you like. And again, you can just observe or you can just listen. You don't have to try to do the thing, so just do whatever's comfortable for you. But take a couple breaths, kind of notice how your breathing feels in your body. Something that might be a familiar experience. And then we're going to do some grounding, just being in this space. So just notice the room that you're in, right? So we're all in this room together, or we're at home on Zoom. Notice the room that you're in at home. Yeah. And then take a few breaths here and notice like how you're sitting, what you're sitting on, and what's touching your body. So if you're sitting in a chair, you might feel your back touching the back of the chair and get some sensation from that. You might feel your seat on the chair, or your feet on the ground. So the idea is just notice any touch or physical feedback you're getting from the environment around you, some kind of sensation that you feel in your body. And then as you're resting with your feet on the ground, just take a moment to see if you can relax your feet a little bit. And then as you take a couple more breaths, we're going to try breathing in through your nose and taking a long exhale out your mouth. And see if you can relax into the chair a little bit more. Just allowing your body to like drink take in the sensations of sitting in a chair or sitting on a cushion. Yeah. Okay, so right now we're kind of opening to physical sensation and what that experience is like. Right? You can always have your eyes open or closed, whatever feels better for you. Good. And then just bringing your attention to your hands. Wherever you have your hands is fine. Just notice your hands and how your hands feel. Notice if they're making contact with anything. And just take a few breaths, just being with the feeling of your hands. Good. Now, I want to just explain a little bit about diaphragmatic breathing. But as you see if you can bring your attention to the center of your body and notice if there's any movement in your center when you're breathing. Is your stomach moving at all? Is there any movement in your rib cage? Right. That could be in the front or the back or the sides of your body, wherever it feels comfortable to notice the sensations. Right. The diaphragm muscle is a flat, round muscle that's in between your chest and your stomach cavity, right? And it just goes up and down like this when you breathe. Right? It's just kind of moving up and down on the inside. When your lungs expand and you breathe in, the diaphragm muscle can go down and create more space for your lungs to expand. And then it softens and comes back up when you exhale. So when our stomach's moving, that has to do with the diaphragm pressing into your stomach area and moving the organs there. So we think about that much, but it's like gives you a different grounded or concrete sense of your breath and what's actually happening with the muscles there. And you might not be able to feel it. That's fine. You can, if you're not sure which way your stomach's going, you can bring your hands onto your stomach if you like, or just take a couple more breaths and just sort of exploring that. Okay. And then we're just going to do one more movement with our hands, and you're welcome to try this or not, but it's just bringing your hands on your legs and taking a nice smooth down your legs. Just taking it, you can might be turn into a little bit of a back. Times, nice and slowly. And the idea is just to enjoy the physical sensation of it and let your body relax a little and kind of bring the...
Eve, when you're bending forward, we're losing your audio for that moment.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to move it up a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've lost it now. We had lost the audio again.
Let's try this. Maybe I'm like doing, yeah. Okay, that might be what it was. All right. So, so the idea is as you're smoothing down your legs, you're just using that as a relaxation movement and enjoying the sensation of it. Nice. And letting go of any extra tension or in your legs. But, all right. And then just stretch out your legs if you want to move your feet around a little bit. And noticing how that feels. And you can take, relax your legs and take a nice stretch up with your arms. And just noticing any sensation of stretch, however you'd like to do this. Good. All right. And just take a rest. And so something to notice as we were doing that movement is just where there are thoughts, emotions, or physical sensations arising to your mind. Like, what did your mind notice during the experience of moving? That's kind of a hypothetical question, but if anybody wants to share anything, you're also welcome to. So yeah, does anyone have any questions or thoughts about that experience, movement experience? No? Okay, no worries. All right. But yeah, so when you're kind of like doing slow movement like that, so getting familiar with your body on a different level, right? And sort of there's some feeling from the outside in. When you use your hands on your body, you're getting sensation from the outside in. But if you're just kind of sitting still and you're breathing and you're noticing feelings or sensations, that's from the inside out. Does that make sense? So you're not like actually bringing like physical contact from the external environment onto you versus just noticing sensation moving on the inside of your body. Yeah, I think there's going to pass the microphone.
I mean, when I do these things, I'm almost comparing myself with the person next to me.
And how did that work on this exercise?
Well, this lady here is much more limber than I am, and she gets way down. And
Did she reach further with her hand?
Oh, boy. I wish I could do maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it's, those are things you notice, right? You notice.
Yeah, definitely.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say.
That's I really appreciate you mentioning that.
I always notice that. I'm noticing what other people are doing,
Right, and when you're doing something physical, then it's obvious, so you can kind of see it, whereas if you're just sitting or it's internal, then you can't. Right, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And everybody's in different places, different stages, and different levels of flexibility, and some people are born with it, so you just kind of, yeah, it's good not to judge yourself no matter where it is. Okay.
So I've been diagnosed with severe PTSD.
Can I see your mouth more? Sorry.
Yes. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been diagnosed with severe PTSD, and I've been in therapy for a while, and I always struggle with like sort of embodied awareness practice. And I just wondered, like, for you as someone who went through and maybe still going through like traumatic experiences, when you have a sort of a resistance towards doing those things, I always run into this conflict where I'm like, should I just push through? Or is pushing through also not listening to my body?
That's a wonderful question. I'm really glad you asked that. Don't push through it. Okay, if your body is like, no, I don't want to do this, don't push through it. But there's something called pendulating, where you taste it a little bit, and then you come back. And then you come back to a place where you restore your parasympathetic nervous system activation, which is the calm, relaxing. So you make sure you feel calm and relaxed, and then you can investigate a little bit. And as you start to get tense, then you come back again. So that's one strategy. It's called pendulating, and it has to do with working with trauma. The other thing is that there are many, many different ways in. So don't just try one way. If that way is not working, there's so many different ways to connect to your body. For example, a really nice way is working with clay. Right? With clay, you're using your body, but you also have this medium in front of you, and that creates some kind of relationship, and it's easier sometimes to feel your body while you also have something else like on your hand or in your hands. Does that make sense? Yeah. So stuff like that can be really good. Did I answer your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions before I continue from anybody at home? Any questions? No. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going. All right. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about emotions, period, which is like one of my favorite topics. Because I had to learn a lot about my emotions. They were not functioning in a adaptive way for this type of society I wanted to be a part of. So I had to really like dive deep to understand them, how they are a physiological process, and they're intellectual, they're physiological, they're physical, they happen on a lot of different levels. And so I had to do a lot of troubleshooting to figure out what was going on with my emotions. How did I learn to put them together, and how can I put them together in different ways so that they will actually be more helpful for me, and help me to connect with other people better. So emotions are an integral part of the mind-body connection. So to feel like a whole person with a good flow between the mind and the body, emotions have to be accepted and embraced. We can have emotions in the present or about the future or the past. We can also have old emotions that are from the past and stayed in our system unresolved. When I first became aware of my uncomfortable emotions as an adult, especially emotions from the past, and was ready to work through them, I felt like they were in tight little compartments all over my body, because that's how I stored them. As I opened up these doors and I felt ready to work on this stuff, one would come up, and then it was so intense. It was like a really, really intense wave. And sometimes I had to grit my teeth and hold on to something until the wave was done, like the couch or a blanket, or like, it was just so hard to let these waves of emotion come up, because I had been disconnected from them for so long. And in the past, I was just so unconscious that I didn't feel these emotions, and I would escape regularly, so that I just never had to be aware of them. So the process of becoming mentally present to my feelings and not shutting them down was really difficult, yet I knew it was necessary for healing the mind-body connection. Over time, it stopped being so. I'm going to add a little side note here, was because I had gotten married and divorced once, and my mother had been divorced 5 times. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go down this road. So how I handled my emotions was a big part of like wanting to have healthier relationships. So that's why I did work so hard to work on these feelings, because I was like, I don't want to have to get married 5 times for it to work. Okay. Over time, it stopped being so painful to feel my feelings, because my mind was better able to process them, and my body was used to letting them move rather than holding on to them so tightly. This has to do with the not clinging thing. The energy can just flow. For my work on emotions, I also grew to think of the mind-body connection as the conscious mind and the unconscious body-mind. And I wanted that relationship to be solid, with no blocks or gaps. I wanted to know what my feelings were and to understand how various life situations created those feelings. When I started this work, it was because I had recognized that my relationships were really dysfunctional. I decided for myself that healing my mind-body connection was the way to have healthier relationships, because my relationship with myself would be healthier. So then I would be able to be with other people who were healthy. And I feel like this theory has borne out over time. It's been a big improvement. I want to talk a little bit more about triggering, just in case that can be helpful for people. When you start to open up your emotions more, it's very easy to feel triggered. This is when something that happened in the present reminds you unconsciously of something that happened in the past, and that went unresolved. And the amount of emotion that shows up for you is both from the present experience and also the past experience. So the emotion feels huge because it's like double whammy. So being able to tell that you are being triggered and that your emotional response may be out of proportion to what's actually happening in the present moment can be very helpful, because then you can take steps to work with the triggering, slowing things down, taking some space, doing some grounding exercises and working on your breath, taking some time to process the old experience before you're trying to do anything about the present one. Also, like letting the other person know that you're triggered if it's happening in a relationship or situation with someone else. I also think of harmony, like on a piano, if you hit 2 notes that are like discordant together, for me, that's what triggering feels like. And being able to take enough space for myself to shift so that I'm able to come back into harmony with what's happening. Then that's also part of like how I know that I've resolved some of the triggered feeling. Yeah, I think it's an important process to work through old material. So it's going to happen, and it's important to not completely avoid it. So it's good when it happens because it helps you work through something that was there from the past that didn't get worked through. But at the same time, you want to make sure it's tolerable and not too much. So you only bite off as much as you can chew. So it's like, you have to decide, is this situation too triggering? Like, is it not possible for me to work through this much? You know, and then I have to step away. So, so it's good to kind of feel out that amount. All right, any questions so far? This going, okay, this interesting? Okay, all right. So I have some examples here of different ways that I worked on to be able to connect to my emotions. And I kind of feel like I was a prehistoric person where I had to just really start from the beginning because the connection was so bad. So, so I used a lot of different images to help me. One of them was envisioning my body as a violin or a cello, and that the emotions were different strings, like connecting all the way down. So when I would experience an emotion, I would notice it, and if I noticed it start to disconnect, I would envision a string that symbolized that feeling and see it vibrate and experience the tone of it. So I was kind of using music and imagery to help me understand what that emotion might be. And I did this for all the primary emotions: fear, anger, grief, joy, surprise, and shame. And later on, I did it for more subtle emotions. So this allowed me to support my body participating more fully in each emotion and not compartmentalizing it to a small part of me where I would try to silence it or repress it, which was what I was brought up with. I also used artwork, writing, movement, body work, meditation, and therapy to work on my emotions. Once I got the hang of feeling emotions more throughout my whole body instead of in a small part, I started becoming aware of emotions even happening around my body. And that was really strange. It was like, oh, they're not just like here, they're also just like, I might just feel it like a big emotion like this. And then I could understand why emotions could be overwhelming or feel big, because I didn't get it before. So I was also starting to access more emotions that had been repressed since childhood. And so the emotions felt very big because that's how they feel when we're young. So that's when you have a good enough caregiver who helps the child with their emotions, they are there to help contain and manage the feelings. So then, a child will have a big emotion, and then the caregiver is there just to support that and help them be with it in a good enough, experience. I didn't have that, so I had to teach myself that and learn how to do it in therapy. In my meditation practice, I often practice being and sitting with various feelings. It took a lot of mental work and meditation to feel like my mind was able to expand enough to contain my emotions and to be able to be with them. I went to a talk once on string theory and quantum physics, and it was talking about 16 dimensions of space, and for some reason that really resonated with me, and I was like, oh, there's all this more room to contain your emotions than I thought. So for that, like almost overnight, that talk like made so much difference, and I felt like I had much more ability to be with my own feelings. So I don't know, just throwing that out there in case that helps anybody. And then I see emotions as information, and it feels good to me to be able to consciously take in that information. Building a larger consciousness that is able to be with the feelings, no matter how big, was a huge undertaking, but very worthwhile. It's another way to look at the body-mind connection, where our mind is able to be with the experiences of the body, and the body with the thoughts of the mind in a grounded, time-oriented way. But just this idea of like trying to build a big enough consciousness that could be with any feeling that might come up, that was a task, but it made a big difference. It's possible to feel emotions without having much of a connection to your body, but the emotions will not be as grounded and maybe might be perceived differently from you. Like you might receive the signal differently or understand the information differently if you're less connected to your body versus more connected to your body. That will change how you interpret your emotions. When your whole system fits together in an integrated feedback loop, it creates a flow. This is where you feel your body, you are aware of your thoughts and physical sensations and how they fit together and are related, and your emotions flow unrestricted and safely throughout your system. The expression came to my mind, a whole is larger than the sum of its parts. So it's like once you get this flow going through your whole system, then you have more space to manage your emotions and feel like they have room to move, and you can make more sense of them. But if you're feeling disconnected, or if you're trying to like compartmentalize it, there's not a lot of room for them to breathe, and then you're not able to see or get as much information from them. So I found that also helped, working just on that mind-body flow and feeling like I was all one big system. Then when I have a feeling, I'm conscious that I'm trying to allow my whole self to experience the feeling and not keep it in one area. Another image that helped me was thinking of a riverbed and a river and various objects in the river. This could be the Tao also, other river Taos, just like a whole thing. But for me, I thought of it in this way. As a riverbed were my boundaries or my concrete limitations. And then the water going down were my thoughts, my physical sensations, emotions, moving with different kind of energy. And then there's a lot of metaphors that you can use depending on what you're working on. Like if you're feeling a tide pool, or if there's a rock in your river, or if there's a lot of wood going down, or the sound or how the water is moving, like that can be a creative way to connect into your body and your flow and sort of like understand what might be going on for you. You have trouble being able to tell what emotion you're feeling. That kind of stuff was very helpful for me. I also use movement practices to create awareness of the flow. And then if I feel like I need to correct something, then I can do that. So I was, I'm just gonna take a moment. Any other questions or thoughts at this time? No? Is everything making sense? Okay. All right, so we're gonna do a little Qigong right now. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Qigong already, but it's a type of movement practice that's sort of the building blocks of Tai Chi. Tai Chi are like long sequences of movement, and then Qigong are just sort of, you do one movement 3 times, and you do another movement 3 times, another movement. So just sort of like the exercises of it. But the basic idea is this mind-body connection. So you feel a flow through your movement, your physical sensations, then your mind sort of pays attention to what the physical sensations feel like. And then you might notice some kind of emotion coming up as you're moving, and that's fine. So any emotions or thoughts or different physical sensations might come up while you're doing the movements, and you breathe with the movements. And then you just be with it, you just allow it, you let it move out. So it's very relaxing, and it's good for just getting more familiar with that mind-body connection. Yeah, and I just found like that doing stuff like this can feel like learning a new language, and you're building a dictionary of physical sensations, or connecting to your body in a purposeful way. And doing stuff like this is helpful because it can make you more sensitive to your body, and it helps you with being able to understand emotions, understand your emotions, which can influence your choices in life when you have more information. All right, well, so for a couple minutes, I'm going to stand up because it will be easier for me to show it than sitting here. And then if anyone else wants to stand up, you're welcome to stand up with me, or you can stay seated. So, and then you can also just watch. You don't have to do it. So there's no pressure. Oh, you're moving it up a little. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll just do this for a couple minutes. But yeah, however you want to participate. So we're going to start off, and then when you do the movements, it's coordinating your breathing with the movements. But basically just make sure you're not holding your breath. So I will probably remind us at different times. So we're going to do a movement called balancing the chi, and just have your feet hip width apart, so this comfortable stance. And then we're going to inhale and bring our hands up like this. And then you turn them over and you bring them down. Exhale. Right? That's it. We're just going to do that 2 times, 2 more times. Inhale. And exhale, letting go of extra tension. Yeah, just being in the room. You can have your eyes open or closed. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Noticing your feet on the ground, how they feel. All right, then we're gonna take our hands out and inhale. You might wanna move a little bit if you're gonna reach to the side. And you inhale your palms towards the ceiling. And then you exhale and bring your palms down the middle. Yeah, just letting go of any extra tension. Yeah, just noticing any feelings, thoughts like, what are we doing? What is this? And exhale as your hands come down. Yeah, making sure it feels comfortable for your shoulders. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. We're just gonna lift our heels and drop them on the floor a couple of times. Yeah. Good. Okay, and then you take one hand around your body like this and the other hand up. And this one's called waving hands like clouds. You just press your palm across the front. And like you're moving it through water. And then you switch arms and you press the other palm. Yeah, that's it. Just letting it flow so that your hand is pushing through air or water. And just breathe, let it flow. Notice your legs and let your legs be nice and strong while your body top is moving smoothly. Yeah, just noticing any sensations you feel, checking in with your breath. We'll just do 2 more of these. Good. Yeah, and then take a rest. Take a couple breaths. All right. Let's do some swings with our arms, or shaking out your arms. Okay, and we'll do one called toss the ball. So you're gonna toss the ball over your shoulder like this, and your other hand is gonna be in a loose fist. I'll turn around so you can see. So you toss the ball and you tap your lower back once with your fist. And then as you toss the ball, see if you could look to where you're tossing the ball. Right. Yeah, just trying a couple of those. Making sure you're not holding your breath. It's so easy to do. Noticing any feelings, thoughts, physical sensations. Right? Our body is like, has so much for us. Yeah, good. All right. Yeah, then take a little rest, shake out your legs. Good. Everyone doing okay so far? All right. Then you're going to take your feet apart, and so your toes are open at an angle diagonally, and then your hands are going to come up and bend your knees a little, and you bring your hands down. And then you change your hands so your fingers are coming up, and you straighten your legs as you bring your hands up. Good. We'll just do that 2 more times. Exhale. And inhale, fingers come up. Good, last one. Exhale. And inhale. Good, then you're gonna bring your feet together and take your hands in a circle around each other. And you're gonna press one hand out and then press the other hand out. Good. Yeah, the one hand coming out while the other one pushing. There you go. So this one, as I bring my hand up, it's called an internal organ massage. So you're moving the energy in your body while you're pressing your hand out. And then check with your breath, check in with your breathing. Anybody start holding their breath? Just let it flow. Good. Just noticing any sensation. Good. And then have your hands face your stomach and go in a circle a few times, like it's going around a clock face. And then reverse and go the other direction. Good. Noticing your connection to the ground through your legs and your feet. And we're just going to make a ball like this by our stomach and bend your knees a little bit. And then as you inhale, you make a bigger ball and you come up a little. And then exhale, smaller ball. That's kind of like an accordion feeling or a butterfly that's expanding. And exhale, softening back to the center. Good. One more time. Yeah. Letting go of any extra tension. Good. Straighten your legs and bring your hand up to your chest. You inhale as you take your hands apart. And exhale, closer together. Good. 2 more times like that. Inhale. And exhale. If I'm making the breath too long, just do what's comfortable for you. Good. Bring your hands down. Inhale your palms up. And exhale, palms come down. Letting go of extra tension. Shake it out. All right. Okay, let's have a seat. All right, any questions about that or any thoughts or anything that people noticed during the Qigong movement? Okay.
Just a question on some of the Qigong movements. I found myself getting into an inhale and exhale rhythm. Like, oh, I'm up when I'm going this way and then I'm down when I'm... should I alternate or does it not matter and just breathe regardless of where, or, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've learned there's some different styles actually. Some schools are like, just breathe and let the movements happen and feel the energy of the body when you're moving. And then there are other schools where the breath is coordinated with the movement. So for example, this one, I generally breathe in when I bring my hands up, and then I exhale when they come down. Because for me, the exhale is like the release or the out. So if your hands are moving away from your center, then I generally would do an exhale at those times, because that's what's like, yeah, I'll let that go. Okay. And then the inhale is when things are coming in. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So that's also from my yoga background too. So I think that's why I do it that way too. Okay.
Great. I thought the exercises we just did were really fantastic and extremely helpful. I do have a meditating practice, and I often feel like, lots of space and peace and all kinds of sensations are coming up during that practice. But it's only with these movement exercises that I realize that there's so much more space when your body is actually incorporated. So I think we're very often falling into a trap of just kind of getting stuck inside and enjoying the interior space or the internal space for exploration, or just
interior space
there.
is a really good expression.
Yeah, that interior space I really enjoy it, but I think it was kind of even more, it became even more accessible with the use of the body. So I thought these exercises were extremely helpful, and they're very peaceful too. So that connection was established in a very harmonious way. So thanks for showing those.
Yeah. So I found I started doing Qigong maybe seven years ago, but that also really helped me with my emotions. So that's something that if you go to a regular Qigong class, they're not usually talking about emotions, but because I have the dance therapy background, I was like, you know what, this is really helping me with my emotions, because I felt like I had movements that I could do with my feelings and like help soothe my emotions with the different movements, or like almost like I'm giving them a massage, or that I'm encouraging the flow of my feelings and not keeping them in one place, but like letting them flow through my body with the energy. Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. Like it really is like a tool that can be used in a lot of different ways. Qigong has been around for however many, like, I don't know, thousands of years. And so it can be helpful in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Well, I personally find it hard to slow down. It's like when we do slow walking here. It's like, okay, all right, okay. Our life doesn't necessarily move at that pace, especially nowadays, it seems. So, and if you have coffee, it's like, okay. So Qigong really tests your maybe patience.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a good word for it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it does work on patience too. And I think it's also like the more you start to pay attention to subtle sensation, like you start to notice all the little sensations, like wine tasting or something. Like the better you get at it, you take a sip and then you notice all these different notes that the wine has. Like, so it's like opening up to this world of sensation where you do a movement and you're like, oh, I feel this and this and this and this and this. So when you start feeling all these sensations, it becomes interesting and you're glad to do it slower so that you can notice it all. There's like this appreciation for your body and for the fact that you are able to feel anything. And so then it feels good to go slowly, because then your brain has a chance to register all the different sensations. But it definitely, it's like a whole piece to fill in. And it can be like really overwhelming at first if you're not used to paying attention to that layer of sensation or that level of sensation. But then that's where the corrective stuff can happen. Like for me, I had a lot to correct with how my emotions flowed through my mind and body. So to get slower so that I could feel the different sensations and notice when I was starting to disconnect or starting to compartmentalize or repress. And, oh, okay, hold on, Eve, right now. So see if I can breathe with that feeling right there so that I can allow it to move out. I really think that my ice skating experience was really helpful for me in this, because I was used to breaking down a lot of small movements and details. Oh, your foot should be exactly like this. You got to point your toe like this. You have to have your arm at this angle, or your hand has to be like this, So I was used to paying attention to small details. So I think that was part of the mindset that I brought into this kind of stuff. That helped? Yeah, okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So I have like,
sorry.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just had to figure out how to unmute it. But anyway, a couple things that came to mind were these exercises did bring some focus to the breath, and then the body movements did help with my brain chatter. So this was definitely a great focus exercise and mindfulness thing. And when we were doing the stretchy things, there's like a feeling of interconnectivity with the body, where one thing would move and it would affect the thing by it, and there's a whole lot going on. And so yeah, it was really, really helpful, and it was nice to move around too. It felt really good to get the stuff like stretching and moving and all that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you brought up another good point. Sometimes all the energy's up here, and it feels really good to do some movement and bring the energy down into the body so that it's equally distributed, Yeah, so then it's like relieving. Thank you. Does somebody else want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just found it very relaxing. And there was something about the way that you did it that it just didn't feel competitive at all.
Oh, no.
Like
yeah.
I had to do it perfectly or
Right.
something, it just really relaxing.
Yeah, and it's nice to know there's like there's thousands of different Qigong exercises, and each one is valid. So like if I put my hand across this way, that's one physical sensation I'm going to feel. If I put my hand this way, that's another one. If I move it this way, that's another one. You know, if I move it this way, that's another one. So it doesn't matter. You're going to feel something from any shape of your hand. Like, so there isn't like a right way, as long as it doesn't hurt you when you're doing it. Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. 5 minutes left. Good. All right. Okay. So I just want to say a little bit more about emotions here. The process of being able to connect to the different emotions is a big part of being able to stay present with whatever is coming up. When you open the door to the body for the body to speak, it often has a lot to say. As meditators, you know how when we're sitting, various things will come up, and thoughts, physical sensations, feelings, mind states. And being able to be with what comes up and not run away from it, but embrace it with equanimity and compassion was a big thing that I've worked on a lot. And non-clinging is such a gift because you can let yourself feel something, and when it's not there anymore, you can let it go. It's a big part of what I cultivate as well. And with the movement meditation, you're just working to be with what's coming up from your body, physical sensations, thoughts, feelings. You notice it, you be with it as it's coming up, and then you don't cling, and you just let it go. So, and then there might even be some feelings of guilt after you let it go. You're like, oh, well, aren't I supposed to hold on to this emotion? Like, I'm supposed to feel this way, right? No, you don't have to. Like, you experience it, and it just will move. So it's okay to let it move out, you know, and then you're actually like letting go of the feeling. And then, and when you're moving, you know, observing yourself, you notice what's happening. And then when something sticks around for a while, you can move with it. So you don't have to try to make it go away if it's not going away yet. That might mean the emotion is there so that you can work with it. You can draw about it, you can move with it, you can talk to someone about the feeling. But the idea is to not force it to go away prematurely if it's not going. But you know, let's just be with it then. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, since we only have a couple minutes, we could do a little bit more movement to close with, or we can, is that sound all right? Okay. I was going to put on some music. So this is not really rhythmical music, it's just like relaxing music. And we'll just do a little bit of moving different parts of your body just to kind of stretch the parts or move however you feel comfortable. And we'll look at this as like a digestion of the talk, right? You've been listening to talking about movement and body and all this for like an hour. So just have a little bit of time to kind of digest the talk, and I'll kind of guide us, and you can also just do your own thing. So if you feel comfortable standing, you can join me, or you can stay seated and observe, or do it from your chair. All right. Sorry. Okay, it should work now. If it doesn't work, we'll just do it without music. Okay, so just take any full body stretches that feel good for you. And breath, any movements that are like a full body stretch that feels good. I can do some back strokes or swimming movements. Good, and taking some twists maybe. All right, we talked about a lot today, so it's possible that your body might feel different after this kind of discussion. just moving your lower body a little bit, maybe shaking out your leg or bending your knees a few times. Good. Then trying some movements with your head and neck. Any stretches feel good with your neck? And any movements with your shoulders. Taking some deep breath, letting go of extra tension. Good. Nice. Great. Then any movements with your arms, your wrists, and your hands. All right. Good. Just moving your arms in any direction that feels good. Make sure you're doing movements that feel good for your body. Good. And then any movements with your center of your body, your back, your rib cage, stomach. Yeah, there's rounding and arching. Taking some side bends. Good. It doesn't matter what movements you're doing as long as it feels comfortable for your body. Taking some movements with your hips, loosening up your hips. Good. And your legs and your feet and ankles. Feeling that connection to the ground. You could try some weight shifting from one side to the other. Good. And we're just going to do a little bit of movement in the space around our body. So just noticing the space, your personal space that you have around your body, like you're in an energy field or Leonardo da Vinci man. I don't know what it's called, that piece, but you know which one I mean. Yeah, like this. So you're just going to move anyhow it feels comfortable in that space around your body. All right. All right, that's great. Coming back to a standing position, just taking a couple of breaths. All right. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. So we're going to bring the talk to a close. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eve, so much. Gosh. Now we can all be relaxed as we go into our day. Again, if you're able to stick around and have coffee or tea, treats, please do that. Everybody that's online, thanks for joining us. It looks like the majority of you were getting into the movement, which is wonderful. So thank you. I think we'll want to have you back.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to.
It was great, thanks. Take care, everybody.
Yeah,
Have a great
feel
day.
free to reach out to me if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, right. Well, Diane did talk at the beginning about the movement class that's at the end of the month. So anyway, thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.